Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 87, and for this one, I head to Rounders Card Club in San Antonio, Texas. I play a massive 5-5 uncapped meetup game with your boys Andrew Nemi and Johnny Vibes. This one is going to be one to remember. The last video I put out was only 3 days ago, so if you haven't seen it, check it out. But these videos take about 15 to 20 hours to make. Usually, I like to take a break afterwards, and I put them out about a week and a half apart. But after the last video, a ton of people sent me messages and screenshots of them voting for me for the Global Poker Awards People's Choice, and I think that's awesome. I'm super appreciative of that, and I wanted to show how thankful I am by putting out content more frequently. So the more you guys support me, the happier I am to work on these vlogs and get them out quicker. If you haven't voted for me yet, please do so. I'm kind of a long shot to even make the final four, but I'll have a link down below in the description box if you want to support this whole vlog production. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I take a late flight out of Las Vegas into San Antonio, and I land at 2 a.m. the day of the meetup game, so I don't have much time to see the city, unfortunately. I pull into the finest hotel in San Antonio, which is, of course, the Quality Inn. You know, if it has quality in the name, the place has to be good. I check into my room and turn on the lights to give you guys a look around. It's not quite great. It's dark, but trust me, you guys aren't missing much. That's okay though, because this trip is about playing 2-card PLO. Several hours later, I meet up with Johnny and Andrew. We catch a ride to Rounders. It's the second time being on the property. If you're ever near San Antonio, you definitely need to check it out. The owners are very forward thinking and support poker vlogs, so it's really cool to have events here. There's plenty of action already. The place is packed. We have 10 tables of 5-5 going. I buy into the game for 1,000, then get started. A few orbits in, we pick up pocket nines on the button. Middle position player limps in. I raise to 25, the small blind calls, everyone else folds, it's heads up, and the flop comes King 9-3 with 2 diamonds. Easy game, we flop middle set. Small blind checks. I bet 30, hoping the opponent has a piece of the board. He does not. It's hard to flop a set, and it's always sad when you do and don't get any action. We have to move on. Next we pick up pocket 5s in the hijack. Under the gun +1 limps in. I raise to 25. The cutoff calls, the big blind calls. Under the gun +1 6 around 2. 4 of us want to see what the dealer has in store. He puts out a flop of 8-8 deuce with 2 hearts. Checks to me. I'm conflicted about what I want to do here. Checking is probably the best option, but if my opponents didn't start out with a pocket pair better than mine, I'm ahead unless someone's holding an 8, and this will probably be my only shot to take a stab at it to deny equity and win the pot. I'm also the pre-flop aggressor, so betting continues a story that I have a hand like an overpair or 2 overs with a flush draw. The reasons against betting are that I have multiple opponents. It could be tough to get anyone to call with a worse hand or fold a better one. I go with option number 1 and I bet 70, but I don't necessarily like this play. The cutoff calls, the 2 other players fold, the turn is an ace, and this is a much better card from my range than it is from my opponent's. I mostly put him on a hand like a middling pocket pair. Those hands will have a difficult time calling a second bullet with an overcard out there. I figure my pocket 5s are no good, and I bet 165 purely as a bluff because this card should help me more than the cutoff. I can wrap aces, an 8, deuces, an ace-high flush draw, or maybe I happen to c-bet as a bluff with some other ace-high holding that now has a pair. I usually wouldn't c-bet with ace-high, but my opponent doesn't necessarily know that. He folds right away. I take a line that I don't normally take. It might not be optimal in the long run, but it works out here. Took 2 bullets, but we got the win. Not long after, we pick up pocket 6s in the small blind. Under the gun +1 calls for 5, so does under the gun +2. I don't have a hand that I want to reopen the pot with, so I check. The big blind also checks. 4 of us see the flop. The dealer puts out King Queen 6 with 2 diamonds. Turns out it's actually not that hard to flop a set. It happens all the time. I'm first to act, and a lot of people tend to check here and either check raise or check call. I don't want to risk it checking through. I also tend to lead and limp to pots from the blinds with draws, so I need to do it with my strong hands too. Note that this is the best hand that I'll ever have in this situation, since I would certainly raise pre-flop with pocket queens or kings. I make it 15. I get 1 customer out of the big blind right away. He's the person who I flopped a set of 9s against earlier and then bluffed when I had pocket 5s. He didn't see my cards in those hands. He just knows that I've been betting a lot in pots, so he's probably not expecting me to be very strong. Under the gun +1 also calls. Under the gun +2 folds. There are 3 of us involved. The turn is a 3, and this is a great card. There are multiple draws that were possible on the flop, and none of them get there. I'm going to continue to charge my opponents if they want to stick around. I bet 50. The big blind has had enough of me betting and taking down pots. He throws in a raise to 150. Under the gun +1 folds. I couldn't be happier to be facing a raise in this situation. There's no way the big blind checked pre-flop with kings or queens, so I essentially have the nuts. I re-raised to 400. Before my chips are even all out there, I get snap called. This is an interesting situation. We're in nearly a $900 pot that started out with everyone limping. And we're going to the river out of position with a set, but there are tons of draws. I'm hoping for a complete blank, but there aren't many of those in the deck. Any club or diamond could potentially complete a flush, and every card in the deck that doesn't pair the board, other than an 8, will make a straight possible. The river is the deuce of hearts, which is about as blank as it gets. I've got 740 left in my stack, and my opponent has me covered. I only have one option.
All in. What is it? I'm all in.
All in? It's about 750,
740. Fair enough to call.
The big blind has queen 3. He called the flop bet with middle pair, and then turn 2 pair. We win a huge pot right away and get the full double up. Nice off to an amazing start. Already we're winning 1345. The last time I was here, I was also up 1,000 early, but then promptly got stuck 1,000 right after, so I don't want to do that tonight. There's lots of variance in these Texas games, and things can change quickly. I take a seat at my second table, then run into my old pal Joey. You may remember him from a prior vlog. He beat me in a pot and then started making strange animal noises. I mentioned that he must have been possessed by some kind of wild squawking bird. Well, today he makes it known that he's after me and comes dressed in the theme of a spirit animal.
It's a sick shirt you've got, man.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. I'll take it.
Wild squawking bird.
Man.
So you got possessed by a flamingo then.
Things at the table are going well. I pick up ace-king suited in the hijack. The player on my right limps in. I raise to 30. The button calls, the big blind calls, the limper calls too. 3 people love pain. 4 of us see the flop. It's ace-8 deuce rainbow. We've got top on a dry board. The big blind checks. Middle position player bets 75. I just flat. The button and the big blind fold. We're heads up. The turn is the 6 of clubs. The opponent leads for 100. This seems weak. He didn't bet that much more than he bet on the flop. I believe I have the best hand, and I want to make it more. The issue is that there aren't a lot of worse one-pair hands that would limp in pre-flop and be willing to call a raise, so I have to make it on the small side. I raised to 250. The player thinks it over and tries to stare me down.
I guess you do this for a living, so I'm not going to get a read on you.
Actually, I'm a professional cat whisperer. I play poker on the side, but feel free to stare away. Eventually, he makes the call. The river is the 9 of hearts. Shouldn't have changed anything. The opponent checks. I still get the feeling that he's weak and won't want to call a very large bet if he has something that I'm beating, so I actually down bet from the turn. I make it only 200. I'm not sure what worse ace he'd be limping in with that would want to call for anything more than that, especially after I raised him on the previous street. I hear some words that make me feel pretty good.
I got a kicker problem.
I like it.
I got to call you.
We get the call and turn over the winner. The player shows that he had ace-3 offsuit and couldn't let it go. We're up over 1,900 on the session. We run cold for a little while before picking up king-8 offsuit in the big blind. The under the gun player straddles to 10. The hijack limps in, small blind calls, I call for 5 more. The under the gun player checks his option. 4 of us see the flop and it comes king-3 deuce, all 1 suit. Small blind checks, could have the best hand with top pair. I like betting rather than check calling or checking and allowing other people to see a turn card for free. I lead out for 15. The hijack calls, the other players fold, it's heads up. The turn is the 8 of clubs, so we make top 2 pair, but there are 4 to the flush. I check, the opponent only bets 20. Can't imagine that I'm ahead, but we're playing deep enough that I think I can justify calling, potentially making a boat, perhaps win a big pot if he's holding the ace of clubs in his hand. I toss in the chips. The river is a blank, it's the 3 of spades, not what we wanted. I check, the opponent checks back and reveals 9-7 offsuit with a 7 high flush. This brings me to my next point. Don't ever fuck with a guy wearing a shirt that says, poker pays bills. You will surely lose every time. After running great initially, I haven't picked up a hand in a long time, and my stack is slowly diminishing. Thankfully, I get king-queen suited on the button. Looks so pretty. I open to 20. The big blind calls, the flop is ace-7 deuce with 2 hearts. The big blind checks. I go ahead and fire for 25 with a nut flush draw. The opponent calls, the turn is the 4 of spades. The big blind checks, he probably has an ace that he won't be folding. I check back. The river is a queen, so we at least make a pair and have a decent amount of showdown value. The big blind leads for 60. Feels like I'm losing, but to be honest, I'm a little bored. When that happens, my fold button gets broken, so call it news, I must. Yeah, that was me doing a Yoda impression to bring attention away from me losing the hand to ace-10, and also because some bitch complained about the monotony in my voice, and I'll do anything for the fans. A few hours into the session, up 1675, I think. Things have gone like really well. Ran great in the beginning. We're kind of running cold, just not really picking up too many hands, and not too sure about that call with King Queen on that last one. But just gotta try to stay focused and not leak away any chips. Gotta just kind of rein it in. I get moved to my fourth table in a private room against several other deep stack pros. There's no better way to rein it in other than to open from middle position with 7-5 suited. That's what I do. The cutoff calls, the big blind 3-bets to 70. If I was playing 1K effective or less, and he was my only opponent, I might consider folding, but everyone in the hand has 2,500 or more, and this is a very small raise. It's only 50 to go, so I'm already getting well over 2 to 1 on a call. I'm in position on the 3-better. Plus, if I call, the cutoff will be getting priced in to call too, so I'm essentially getting more than 3 to 1 with a disguised hand if it hits. Plenty of implied odds. I toss in 50 more, the cutoff calls, 3 of us go to the flop, it's 6-6-4 rainbow, we've got the open-ended straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. The big blind leads for 150, there's no hand I'd ever raise with on this flop, so I flat the bet. The cutoff folds, it's heads up, the turn is another 4, the big blind checks. You don't want to have to rely on making hands every time you get involved with suited 1-gappers, so I take this opportunity to bluff with some equity. I make it 250. If I have 7-5 here, I could potentially have a 6 or a 4 in my hand, plus I can rep hands like pocket queens, jacks, and 10s. They're trying to deny equity from ace-high type holdings, which is what it seems like I'm up against after the player checks turn. That's another reason why I bet relatively small, because I shouldn't have to bet too big to get folds out of hands like ace-high, and if he has jacks or better, he won't be folding to a larger bet anyway. The opponent says, "Nah, playa, I'm not letting it go that easy." He makes the call, the river is a 5, my hand goes from having no showdown value to now beating all ace-highs. The player checks. I was originally considering bombing it as a bluff, but there's no need to anymore. I snap check back. The big blind has ace-queen offsuit. We win a rather big pot by hitting it on the river. Note that I kind of forced it in this situation. Normally I shouldn't be opening with 7-5 suited in a tough lineup from middle position, but I was getting antsy and I happened to get lucky in this instance. If it had gone the other way, I may have been pissed with myself for losing hundreds of extra dollars unnecessarily. I might have tilted off a lot more money after. No need to worry though, I'm up over 2,100 and I've got a $500 chip in front of me. It doesn't happen that often in a $5 big blind game. A few hands later, I'm dealt pocket jacks under the gun. I open to 20. Under the gun plus 1 calls, the cutoff calls for revenge, small blind gets in the mix, and the big blind calls. Everyone wants to feel the wrath of Brad the Cat Whisperer, and they do because the flop comes ace, king, jack, rainbow. We've got bottom set. It checks to me. I don't have to worry about anyone having a better set because no one 3-bet me pre-flop. I only have to be concerned about queen 10, and I'll still have outs against that holding. I bet 70. Under the gun plus 1 calls, the cutoff folds, the small blind then raises to 275. The big blind folds, the action's on me. Small blind doesn't have much left in the stack, so I re-raise to 570, risking my recently acquired purple chip. Prefer not to lose that one. Under the gun plus 1 folds, small blind doesn't snap call, so I'm excited for that. There's no way he's contemplating what to do for such a small raise with anything that beats me, so I'm hoping for a call. He lets it go, I show him I had it, and get all my chips back, plus some additional ones from people that hate money. Despite it being the toughest table of the night, I'm running great in this private room. Lots of others are having a fun time too. Even the ghost of Teddy KGB shows up to sweat all the action. At the last table of the session, I finally get to play with my Squawking Bird nemesis, pick up pocket queens on the button, middle position player limps in, Squawking Bird raises to 35 from the hijack. The cutoff calls, I'm in a fantastic situation, I 3-bet to 150. The limper folds, Joey calls, the cutoff folds, Squawking Bird and I are heads up, the flop comes 6-6-4, there's a great flop, Joey checks, it's a paired board, I'm gonna have him beat a huge percentage of the time, and he could be drawing near dead. I'm also in position, so I don't need to put that much out there to deny equity. I down bet to 100, it'd be tough for him to fold something like 10s, 9s, or 8s for that amount. He reluctantly lets it go. I show him the ladies, he said that he had 1 over, then I give him a taste of his own medicine. In the last interesting hand of the night, I've got ace-king suited in the cutoff, it's a straddle pot, under the gun plus 1 limps in, Joey calls middle position, I raise to 50. Under the gun plus 1 calls, Joey calls, and it finally goes to the button straddle, he calls. 4 of us see the flop, it's king 7-6 rainbow, under the gun plus 1 leads for 95. Joey folds, it's on me, I can't imagine the under the gun plus 1 player has absolutely nothing here. He called 50 pre-flop and bet into 3 others. I just flat, which I'm happy to do. The button folds, it's heads up, the turn is a 4, not going to change much. If I was ahead on the flop, then I'm probably still ahead, even though some unlikely straights get there. The opponent bets again, this time for 165. I call, but the camera doesn't capture it. The river is a 10. It's not a great card because a hand like King 10 is something that my opponent could have limp called 50 with. Here he fires for a third street, but only for 185. I snap, he asks if I have a king, I nod yes, he says that he has queens, and keeps his cards face down. I turn over ace king and win a big final pot. Absolutely crazy session. Ran about as well as I possibly could have run for pretty much the whole night. There was about a 2-hour period where I was just running cold. I wasn't running bad at all. I just wasn't getting many cards to play with. And I think that 7-5 suited hand was a really pivotal one for me. If I had lost it, I would have been upset at myself for getting into a situation that I could have easily avoided. But I ended up winning it, and that was huge. I think I might have gone on tilt if I had lost it. Luckily, things went my way, and I booked the biggest $5 big blind win that I've ever had. I've never won over 3K before in a $5 big blind game. Even in Texas Card House in Austin, I think I won like $2,900. I've had a lot of $2,800, $2,900 wins, but never crossed that 3K threshold. So excited to share it with you guys. I've been running super good lately, which has been nice. In the beginning of the year, I ran pretty poorly. So it's great to have things turn around and do well. The next day, I fire in a $200 meetup game tournament. I didn't make the money, but we crushed the 10K guarantee with over $20,000 in the prize pool. Tend not to film much during tournaments because they're stressful enough. It's hard to keep track of everything with the blinds constantly increasing. I don't know what I'm doing as much, so I can't give great advice. It's better to give updates in real time, so that's what I did with this tournament for those who follow me on Instagram. Even though I busted, it was still a fun and cool way to wrap up the trip to San Antonio. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons because it helps out the channel a ton. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'm happy to get back to you. I want to give a big thanks to Rounders Card Club for having us out there. That was a blast. They're big supporters of poker vlogs in general, so it's really cool to play there and promote them. Thanks to everybody who came out. Hope you guys had a lot of fun. I mentioned in this video that this was my biggest win ever in a $5 big blind game. Usually I tend to kind of lock up wins. You know, if I win anything over 1,000, I'm generally pretty happy, and anything over 2,000, I tend to kind of just lock up and call it a day. But today, or in this episode, I pushed myself and just ran extremely well, which was pretty awesome for me. My biggest win ever in a 5-10 game is 5,200. That was on Live at the Bike. Check that episode out if you haven't yet. Big thanks to everybody who's voted for me for the Global Poker Awards. I really appreciate it. Like I said, if you guys keep voting for me, I'm happy to put out this content more frequently. So if you feel like you've gotten some entertainment value or you feel like I've helped your poker game at all, then I definitely appreciate it. Thanks to Check Race Charles and Jamin Burton especially. They put out Instagram posts recently saying that you know, they have my support, and that's really awesome. Check Race Charles is one of my absolute best friends. I actually lived in his house in Las Vegas. He's the first professional poker player that I ever became friends with, and he's probably had the single biggest influence on my poker game. So check out his vlogs, and Jamin Burton has some of the best production quality in the entire game, and he's absolutely hilarious. So check out his too. I'll have links down below in the description box to both of their channels, and Johnny Vibes and Andrew Nemes. The next meetup game that I'm doing is going to be at Hollywood Park Casino in Los Angeles. I'll be out there April 6th, 7th, and 8th, and that's going to be a blast. It's the first Southern California meetup game that we've ever done, so we expect that to be pretty awesome. And then April 12th through the 20th, I'm going to be at the Peppermill for Run It Up Reno, and that's going to be a blast too. So hope to see you guys out there. Hope you're doing well. Good luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time.